There is a moment, subtle, almost unnoticeable, when your spirit pauses in the middle of an ordinary day. You could be doing something simple, scrolling, walking, sitting in silence, and suddenly, without warning, a thought crosses your mind. Not just any thought, but a thought. A name. A face. A memory you didn't invite. And for a second, it feels almost placed there. You try to shake it off. You tell yourself it's random. You convince yourself it's just your mind wandering. But deep down, something in you whispers, this feels different. And that's because it is. There are connections in this world that go beyond what the eyes can see. There are moments when someone is thinking about you with such intensity, such focus, such emotional weight that it creates a ripple, a quiet pull, a spiritual echo that reaches you, even when they are miles away, even when they haven't spoken your name out loud. And lately you've been feeling it more, haven't you? That strange awareness, that subtle tension in your chest, that unexplainable urge to check your phone, that feeling like something is about to happen but you don't know what. You're not imagining it. Because while you've been going about your life, trying to stay grounded, trying to move forward, trying to keep your peace, someone, somewhere, has been holding your name in their thoughts far more than you realize. Not casually, not briefly, but repeatedly, intentionally, almost as if they are building the courage or the plan for something they have yet to do. And this is where the message begins to shift. Because this is not just about someone thinking of you. This is about why they are thinking of you. Archangel Michael steps forward in this moment, not softly, not vaguely, but with clarity that cuts through confusion. His presence is not here to comfort illusion, it is here to reveal truth. And the truth is this: not every thought directed toward you is harmless. Not every memory they replay carries pure intention. And not every silence means absence. There is movement happening behind the scenes. Emotional movement, spiritual movement, even strategic movement. And while you have been focused on your own path, your own healing, your own growth, someone else has been watching from a distance, trying to understand you, trying to interpret you, trying to decide their next step concerning you. Have you noticed how certain memories have resurfaced out of nowhere? Moments you thought were closed, conversations you thought were finished, feelings you believed you had already released. Why now? Why all at once? Because sometimes, when someone is thinking deeply about you, they don't just revisit you in their mind, they pull on the energy connected to you. And that pull, it reaches you. It stirs things. It reopens questions. It awakens awareness. And suddenly, you find yourself wondering, why am I thinking about them again? Why does this feel unfinished? Why does it feel like something is about to happen? Because something is forming. Why, here is what makes this moment so critical. Archangel Michael is not just revealing that someone is thinking about you. He is warning you that their thoughts are leading to action. And that action may not be what you expect. It may come suddenly. It may come disguised. It may come at a time when you least anticipate it. And the question is not whether it will happen. The question is, will you recognize it when it does? Because not every return is meant for reconnection. Not every message is meant for peace. Not every step they take is aligned with your purpose. This is why your spirit had been restless. This is why your intuition has been whispering. This is why you feel like something unseen is slowly moving closer into your visible world. You are being prepared. Prepared not to react, but to discern. Prepared not to chase, but to observe. Prepared not to fall back into old patterns, but to stand in awareness. because what is forming carries weight, and the moment it reveals itself, everything will make sense. But until then, you must stay alert, stay grounded, stay spiritually aware, because the unseen is becoming seen and the quiet thoughts held about you are about to take form in a way that may change the direction of what comes next. And you, right now, are standing at the edge of that moment. Type "I am aware" in the comments if you feel this message stirring in your spirit. Blessing code 1717 is now surrounding you. There is someone, closer than you think, yet distant enough to remain hidden, who has been holding your name in their thoughts with a persistence that refuses to fade. This is not a passing curiosity or a fleeting memory that comes and goes with time. Oh, this is something more deliberate, more sustained, more intentional. While you have been moving forward, focusing on your path, trying to maintain balance and clarity, this individual has remained in a quiet state of observation, studying you without your awareness, replaying moments, analyzing words, and revisiting versions of you that exist only in their memory. You may not see them. You may not hear from them. But their silence is not emptiness. It is activity beneath the surface. It is a space where thoughts grow, where emotions evolve, where decisions are being formed slowly, carefully, almost cautiously. And this is why your spirit hath been unsettled, because even without physical interaction, there is an invisible thread connecting awareness to awareness, thought to thought, presence to presence. Archangel Michael reveals that this person is not random. They are not a stranger passing through your energy without meaning. This is someone who knows you, someone who has encountered you in a way that left an imprint, someone who has not fully released what they felt, what they experienced, or what they believe you represent in their life. And because of that, their mind returns to you again and again, not by accident, but by inner compulsion. There is a reason they cannot let go. There is a reason your name continues to echo in their thoughts. And there is a reason their attention has intensified recently. Something within them has shifted. Something has been triggered, either by your absence, your growth, your silence, or even your perceived distance. They have noticed changes in you, whether directly or indirectly. They have sensed that you are not the same person they once knew, and instead of ignoring it, they have become more focused, more curious, more drawn to understanding what has changed and what that means for them. But here is what must be understood clearly. Not all observation comes from clarity of heart. Some watch from longing. Some watch from confusion. Some watch from unresolved emotion. And some watch from a place they themselves do not fully understand. This is why Archangel Michael steps in with discernment, not assumption. Because the danger is not in being thought about. It is in misinterpreting the intention behind those thoughts. You must not assume that because someone is thinking of you, their intentions are aligned with your peace, your growth, or your purpose. Thought alone does not equal purity. Attention does not equal alignment. This silent observer has been building something internally. A narrative, a perspective, a belief about you that may or may not reflect the truth of who you are today. They are piecing together fragments, memories, impressions, emotions, and forming a conclusion that is guiding what they will eventually do. And this is where the tension you feel begins to make sense. Because when someone holds you in their mind with intensity, they are not just remembering you. They are preparing themselves. Preparing for a decision. Preparing for an action. Preparing for a moment where thought turns into movement. You may have felt this as a subtle pressure, a quiet anticipation that you cannot explain. A sense that something is approaching, even though nothing visible has changed. That is because the movement has not yet reached the physical. It is still forming in the unseen. Archangel Michael warns you gently, but firmly, you are not meant to chase this awareness, nor are you meant to ignore it. You are meant to observe it with clarity, to remain grounded, to allow truth to reveal itself in time rather than forcing understanding prematurely. Because when this person steps forward, and they will, their approach will carry everything they have been holding within. Every thought, every assumption, every emotion they have allowed to grow in silence. And if you are not aware, you may respond to the surface without recognizing the depth behind it. This is why your awareness now matters. This is why your stillness now matters. This is why your discernment must remain sharp and unwavering. You are not being shown this to create fear. You are being shown this to create readiness. Because when someone has been thinking about you this deeply, their next step is rarely casual. It is intentional. It is weighted. It is influenced by everything they have built in their mind about you. And the question is not whether they will act. The question is whether you will recognize the truth behind their action when it arrives. Stay centered. Stay clear. Stay rooted in who you are now, not who they remember you to be. Because the silent observer is no longer just observing. They are getting closer to stepping forward. Type "I discern" clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now activated around your awareness. There has been a shift, and you felt it before you understood it. It did not arrive loudly. It did not announce itself with clarity. Instead, it entered quietly, almost unnoticed at first, like a subtle change in the air before a storm forms on the horizon. One moment, everything felt stable, predictable, grounded. And then, without warning, something inside you began to stir. A restlessness, a heightened awareness, a feeling that something unseen had begun to move. You may have tried to explain it logically. You told yourself it was just stress, just overthinking, just a passing emotional wave. But this was not random, and it was not without purpose. This was the beginning of an energetic shift, one that was directly connected to the thoughts and intentions being directed toward you. Archangel Michael reveals that energy is never isolated. Thought carries weight. Intention carries direction. And when someone focuses on you repeatedly, especially with emotional intensity, it does not remain contained within them. It extends. It reaches. It creates movement in the unseen that eventually touches the one being thought about. That is why you began to feel something change before anything physically happened. This shift you are experiencing is not confusion. It is awareness catching up to movement. Have you noticed how your sensitivity has increased recently? How certain things feel heavier than before, while others feel strangely distant? How your patience has shortened in some areas, yet your intuition has sharpened in others? This is not a balance. This is recalibration. Your spirit is adjusting to something that is forming around you. Because while you have been evolving internally, someone else has been directing their focus outward, toward you. And that focus has begun to create pressure, not necessarily negative, but undeniably present. It is the kind of pressure that signals change is approaching, that something is building toward a moment of release. This is why certain emotions have resurfaced unexpectedly. Feelings you thought you had resolved have returned, not to pull you backward, but to make you aware of what is still connected. Because when energy shifts, it exposes what is unfinished, what is unresolved, and what is still capable of being influenced. Archangel Michael speaks with clarity here. You must not mistake this shift for weakness. You must not interpret it as regression. What you are feeling is not you losing control. It is you becoming aware of something that was previously hidden. There is a difference between being overwhelmed and being awakened. And right now, you are being awakened. This is also why your environment may feel different, even if nothing has visibly changed. Conversations may feel off. Silence may feel louder. Certain people may feel distant or harder to read. That is because your perception is expanding. You are sensing layers that you once overlooked. You are recognizing patterns that once blended into the background. And at the center of this shift is the energy being directed toward you by the one who has been thinking about you. Their focus has intensified. Their thoughts have gained momentum. And that momentum is beginning to ripple outward, creating the very shift you now feel internally. But here is where your awareness becomes critical. Not every energy shift is meant to pull you in. Some are meant to alert you. Archangel Michael warns that you must remain grounded in your own center. Do not allow external focus, no matter how strong, to disrupt your internal clarity. Because when someone directs intense thought toward you, it can create a pull, a subtle temptation to engage mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually without understanding why. You may feel drawn to check on them. You may feel curious about what they are doing. You may feel an urge to revisit something that had already ended. But pause, because not every pull is an invitation. Sometimes it is simply a signal that something is forming, a signal that someone is approaching a decision, a signal that movement is about to cross from the unseen into the visible. This is why you must stay aware, not reactive. Because the shift you feel is not the end of something, it is the beginning of something unfolding. And when it reaches you fully, when their thoughts finally turn into action, you will understand why this moment felt so significant, why this awareness arrived before the event itself. You are being prepared ahead of time, prepared to see clearly, prepared to respond wisely, prepared to stand in your truth without being pulled into confusion. The energy has already shifted. The movement has already begun. And now, you are standing in the space between what is forming and what is about to reveal itself. Stay steady, because what comes next will require not just awareness, but discernment rooted in truth. Type I stay grounded in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3333 is now surrounding your spirit. As this shift unfolds and unseen forces begin to align, understand this. Every message you receive here is not just for you, but for countless souls still searching for clarity in their own storm. When you choose to support this mission, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing light into lives that are waiting in darkness. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not just written, it is alive, speaking directly into your moment right now. I feel led to say this clearly. Your action today can become someone else's breakthrough tomorrow. The PayPal link in the description and the QR code on your screen are not just options. They are doors for you to participate in something greater than yourself. As you give, may your life overflow like a river that never runs dry, touching every area that once felt still. Do not delay this moment. Step into it. Act now, and release your seed with purpose. There are connections in your life that were never meant to be explained by logic alone. They move beyond words, beyond physical presence, beyond the limits of what can be seen or proven. And what you are experiencing right now is rooted in one of those connections, a link that exists not just in memory, but in energy, in awareness, in the unseen pathways where thought and emotion travel freely. You may have wondered how it is possible to feel someone's presence without them being near you. How it is that their name enters your mind without invitation, or why certain emotions surface without a clear cause. This is where the deeper truth begins to unfold. Because thoughts are not as contained as you were once led to believe. When they are repeated, when they are emotionally charged, when they are directed toward a specific person with focus and intention, they begin to move. They begin to extend beyond the one thinking them, reaching outward in ways that are subtle but powerful. Archangel Michael reveals that what connects you to this person is not just history, not just shared experience, but an energetic imprint that has not been fully released. That imprint acts as a pathway, allowing awareness to travel back and forth even in silence. It is why you can feel their presence without seeing them, why their attention reaches you without a single word being spoken. This is not something to fear, but it is something to understand. Because where connection remains open on this level, it allows influence to move in both directions. Their thoughts can reach you, and your awareness can respond, even if you do not consciously realize it at first. This is why you may find yourself thinking about them at unexpected times, feeling emotions that do not seem to originate from your current reality, or sensing a pull that does not align with your present focus. This is not coincidence. It is connection. But not all connections are meant to remain active. Archangel Michael steps forward, with clarity and authority to remind you that awareness must be paired with boundaries. Just because someone can reach you through thought does not mean they are meant to remain connected to you in this way. Just because you feel them does not mean you must respond to them. This is where many lose their clarity. They mistake connection for permission. They assume that because something is felt, it must be followed. But that is not truth. You are being shown this connection so that you can recognize it, not so that you can surrender to it. Because the one who has been thinking about you has unknowingly activated this pathway again. Their repeated focus, their emotional intensity, their internal revisiting of you has reopened a line that was once quieter, less active, less present. And now, that line carries movement. You may feel it as a subtle pull toward the past, a curiosity that feels stronger than usual, a sense that something unresolved is asking for your attention. But Archangel Michael warns you to remain anchored in the present. Because while the connection allows awareness to travel, it does not dictate your direction. You are not being pulled backward. You are being made aware of what is reaching toward you. And there is a difference. This is why your discernment is so important in this moment. Because the more aware you become of this connection, the more you must decide how to respond to it. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but consciously and with intention. You must ask yourself, does this connection align with who I am now? Does it support where I am going? Does it bring clarity, or does it create confusion? Because what is forming is not just an interaction. It is the potential reactivation of something that once existed between you and this person. And if you are not clear, you may find yourself stepping into something that feels familiar, but no longer fits the person you have become. Archangel Michael does not bring this revelation to create distance for the sake of distance. He brings it to protect your alignment, to ensure that what you allow into your space moving forward is chosen with awareness, not influenced by unseen pressure. The connection is real. The thoughts are reaching you. The awareness you feel is valid. But you remain in control of what happens next. Because even though thoughts can travel, even though energy can move across distance, your response is still yours to choose. Your direction is still yours to define. Your path is still yours to walk. And as this connection becomes clearer, as the movement behind it continues to build, you will begin to see more clearly what it is leading toward. Stay grounded in your present. Stay clear in your mind. Stay firm in your identity. Because not every connection that returns is meant to stay. And not every thought that reaches you is meant to shape your future. Type "I choose clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 4444 is now surrounding your mind and spirit. Now the moment deepens, and the question you have been circling, quietly, carefully, almost hesitantly, begins to rise to the surface with undeniable weight. It is no longer just about who is thinking about you. It is no longer just about the connection, the energy, or the shift you have felt. The focus sharpens now into something more precise, more revealing, more necessary for your clarity. Why are they thinking about you this way? Because not every thought carries the same intention. Archangel Michael steps forward with a presence that does not allow confusion to remain comfortable. His voice does not rush, but it does not soften truth either. He reveals that behind every repeated thought is a motive, and behind every motive is a force shaping what comes next. This is why you must not remain on the surface of awareness. You must go deeper. You must discern. There are three paths that often drive a person to hold someone in their thoughts with this level of intensity: love, envy, or destiny. And while they may appear similar on the surface, they carry completely different outcomes. First, there is love, or what feels like it. This is the motive many hope for, the one that feels warm, familiar, always comforting. It is the idea that someone cannot stop thinking about you because they care deeply, because they miss you, because they recognize your value in a way they did not before. And yes, sometimes this is true. Sometimes distance creates clarity. Sometimes silence reveals a presence once hid. Sometimes a person returns in thought because their heart has awakened. But even here, Archangel Michael urges caution. Because not all love is aligned. Not all care is mature. Not all longing is healthy. A person can feel drawn to you and still not be prepared to meet you where you are now. They can think about you constantly and still carry patterns that would disturb your peace if allowed back into your space. So even if the motive is love, it must be tested. It must be seen clearly, not romantically. Then there is envy, a quieter, more concealed force that often hides behind curiosity. This is the motive that does not announce itself openly. It observes. It compares. It questions. This person may be thinking about you not because they want to reconnect in harmony, but because they are trying to understand how you have moved forward, how you have grown, how you have reached a place they did not expect you to reach. Your progress may have unsettled something within them. Your silence may have removed access they once relied on. Your independence may have disrupted the dynamic they were comfortable with. And now, their thoughts are not just about you, they are about what you represent. A mirror, a contrast, a reminder of something within themselves they have not yet resolved. Archangel Michael warns you clearly here. Envy does not always appear as hostility. Sometimes it appears as interest. Sometimes it appears as concern. Sometimes it even appears as admiration. But beneath it, there is a balance. And if you are not discerning, you may interpret attention as support when it is actually comparison. Finally, there is destiny, the most complex and the most misunderstood of the three. This is when someone thinks about you because your paths are still connected in some way that has not yet fully unfolded. It does not always mean they are meant to return permanently. It does not always mean they are meant to stay. But it does mean there is something unfinished, not emotionally but spiritually. This could be a lesson, a closure, a truth that must be spoken, or even a moment that brings understanding to something that once felt incomplete. Destiny does not always reunite people. It often reveals them to themselves through each other. And this is why you must not rush to label the motive. Because the same action, reaching out, returning, speaking, can come from any one of these places, and only your discernment will reveal which one it truly is. Archangel Michael does not ask you to guess. He asks you to observe, to listen not just to words but to energy, not just to what is said but to what is carried behind it. Because when this person takes their next step, their motive will reveal itself, not immediately, but through consistency, through behavior, through alignment or lack of it. You must remain grounded in who you have become, not who they remember, not who they expect, not who they hope you still are, because your clarity is your protection. You are not here to decode them. You are here to remain aligned with yourself. And when you do, their motive will become clear without force, without confusion, without emotional entanglement. This is the moment where awareness turns into wisdom, where curiosity must not override discernment, where attention must not override truth. Because what they feel, what they think, what they are preparing, it all leads back to one thing. Their motive will shape their action, and your discernment will shape your response. Type "I see the truth" clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5555 is now activated around your discernment. There is a moment in every spiritual unfolding where awareness alone is no longer enough. Understanding becomes responsibility. Insight becomes urgency. And what once felt like distant awareness begins to feel immediate, almost pressing, as if the unseen world is leaning closer, asking you to pay attention with full presence. This is that moment. Archangel Michael steps forward now not as a distant observer, but as an active guardian of timing. And in his presence, there is no confusion, only precision. He reveals that what is forming around you is not happening randomly or gradually without purpose. It is unfolding within a very specific window of time, one that carries significance not just for what is happening around you, but for how you choose to respond within it. Because timing, in spiritual terms, is not just about when something happens. It is about what you are able to perceive when it does. You have been feeling the shift already, the subtle changes in energy, the heightened awareness, the emotional echoes that seem to arrive before any visible event takes place. But Archangel Michael now clarifies something essential. What you are sensing is not just anticipation, it is alignment. Events are beginning to converge. Thoughts are beginning to translate into intention. And intention is beginning to move toward action. This is why your awareness feels intensified. It is not accidental. It is not imagined. It is preparation. There are moments when heaven allows awareness to precede manifestation so that you are not caught unaware, so that you are not emotionally unprepared, so that when something shifts in your external world, your spirit is already steady enough to recognize it without confusion or panic. But timing also carries responsibility, because when awareness increases, so does the necessity for discernment. You are no longer operating in ignorance. You are no longer in the space where things simply happen to you without recognition. You are now in the space where you see before it unfolds. And that changes everything. Archangel Michael warns that this is the point where many lose clarity, not because they lack understanding, but because they react too quickly. They assume. They attach meaning prematurely. They respond emotionally instead of spiritually. And in doing so, they step outside of alignment with what is actually unfolding. You must not do this. You are being asked to remain still internally while remaining observant externally. Because what is coming toward you has been shaped over time in the unseen. It is not impulsive. It is not random. It is the result of repeated thought, repeated focus, repeated internal processing from the one who have been holding you in their awareness. And now, that internal process is nearing completion, which means movement is close. This is why Archangel Michael emphasizes timing, because when the movement arrives, it will feel sudden even though it has been building slowly beneath the surface. It will feel like it appears out of nowhere, even though it hath been forming in thought long before it becomes visible in action. And this is where your awareness becomes crucial. You are being prepared to recognize movement without confusion, to see intention without misinterpretation, to respond from clarity rather than emotion. There is a difference between reacting to what appears and recognizing what is actually happening. And in this moment, the difference is everything. Archangel Michael reveals that the next step from this person, who had been thinking about you, observing you, processing you internally, will carry significance not because of its surface appearance, but because of its timing in your life. It will arrive when your awareness is heightened, when your sensitivity is sharpened, when your discernment is being refined. This is intentional, because timing always serves alignment. You may feel that something is about to happen soon. The sense of anticipation is not misplaced, but it is not meant to create anxiety. It is meant to create readiness, a grounded awareness that allows you to observe without being pulled into emotional distortion. You are not being asked to anticipate every detail. You are being asked to remain aligned with truth when details begin to unfold. Archangel Michael's warning is not about fear. It is about positioning. Because when timing converges with awareness, the potential for misunderstanding increases if you are not centered. And misunderstanding is where disruption begins, not in the event itself, but in how it is interpreted. This is why you must remain anchored in your present self, not your past emotional responses, not old patterns of reaction, but the version of you that is aware, grounded, and capable of discerning without distortion. Because what is forming is not meant to destabilize you. It is meant to reveal something. Something about intention. Something about direction. Something about what hath been silently building in thought long before it becomes visible in action. And when it arrives, it will not ask for emotional reaction. It will ask for awareness. Stay steady in this timing. Stay clear in your perception. Stay rooted in your awareness of what is real versus what is assumed. Because Archangel Michael is not simply showing you what is coming. He is preparing you to stand within it without losing clarity. And when the moment arrives, your understanding will determine your peace. Type "I am ready" in divine timing in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now stabilizing your spiritual awareness. There is a moment just before action is taken where everything in the unseen begins to align quietly. No announcement. No warning in the physical sense. Just a subtle shift in behavior, intention, and internal decision-making. And Archangel Michael reveals that you are now entering that exact threshold, the space where thought is no longer staying hidden, but beginning to prepare for expression. What hath been held in silence is no longer static. What hath been observed internally is no longer just reflection. Something is forming into direction, and you are being shown this not to create fear, but to create awareness. Because when someone has been thinking about you consistently, repeatedly, and with emotional or psychological weight, there comes a point where thinking is no longer enough. It naturally begins to evolve into action. Archangel Michael calls this the threshold of expression, the moment where internal energy can no longer remain contained and begins to move outward into behavior, communication, or decision. And this is where you are now. You may not see it yet in physical form, but the internal preparation has already begun on the other side of this connection. Subtle shifts in how they perceive you, changes in how they interpret past moments, a growing internal urgency that they themselves may not fully understand. This is what precedes movement. Not chaos, not noise, but quiet internal escalation. And this is why your spirit hath been sensing something approaching. Because even before action arrives, energy begins to reorganize itself. Archangel Michael reveals that what is forming is not impulsive. It is not random. It is the result of prolonged internal processing. This person has not stopped thinking about you. They have been building toward a conclusion. And conclusions always demand expression. At some point, what is held internally begins to seek resolution externally. But here is where your discernment becomes essential. Because not every action that follows deep thought is aligned with truth. Not every step taken after reflection is grounded in clarity. Sometimes people move from confusion rather than understanding. Sometimes they act from emotional unrest rather than spiritual alignment. And sometimes what is prepared internally carries mixed motives that only become visible once action is taken. Archangel Michael is not showing you this to make you anticipate every detail. He is showing you this so you do not misinterpret what comes next. Because when this person finally makes their move, it may not arrive in the form you expect. It may not be direct. It may not be fully honest in its structure. It may carry layers of intention that are not immediately visible. And this is where many lose clarity by responding to the surface instead of discerning the depth beneath it. You are being prepared to see beyond appearance, to recognize energy before explanation, to feel intention before words fully reveal themselves. This is not about suspicion. This is about awareness. Archangel Michael emphasizes that what is coming next may feel sudden to you, but it will not be sudden in origin. It has been forming quietly in the background of thought for some time. Replayed memories, internal debates, emotional reevaluation, silent curiosity. All of this hath been building toward a point where action becomes inevitable. And when that moment arrives, it will feel like something is finally happening, but in truth, it will be the result of everything that has already been happening internally for them. This is why your grounding is critical. Because sudden movement from someone who hath been silent in physical form can create emotional disruption if you are not anchored in your awareness. You may feel pulled into old emotional responses. You may feel curiosity rise stronger than discernment. You may feel a desire to interpret the moment immediately rather than observe it fully. But Archangel Michael warns you, do not rush interpretation. Because interpretation without full clarity leads to distortion, and distortion leads to misalignment. You are not being asked to reject what comes. You are being asked to recognize it without losing yourself in it. This unexpected move is not the end of understanding. It is the beginning of visible truth. What hath been hidden in thought will begin to take shape in action. And when it does, you will finally see what hath been forming beneath silence all along. But you must remain centered, because your awareness is your protection, your clarity is your boundary, and your discernment is your strength. Archangel Michael is guiding you into a state of observation, not reaction, into a state of clarity, not confusion. Because what comes next will not just reveal them, it will also reveal how much you have grown in your ability to see without being pulled off your center. And that is the true purpose of this moment. Not just to show you what they are preparing, but to show you who you have become while waiting. Stay aware. Stay grounded. Stay aligned with truth as it unfolds. Because the next step they take will open a new layer of understanding you have not yet fully seen. Type ISE without confusion in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now stabilizing your perception. There is a moment in every spiritual unfolding where awareness is no longer the challenge, Discernment is. You are no longer unaware of the movement around you. You are no longer blind to the possibility that something is forming, shifting, or preparing itself in silence. You are now conscious of it. You feel it. You sense it. You even anticipate it. But Archangel Michael reveals that this is precisely where the real test begins. Because awareness tells you something is coming, but discernment tells you what it actually is. And those two are not the same. You may already feel a heightened sensitivity in your spirit, a kind of alertness that makes you more observant than before. You notice tone more clearly. You read between words more easily. You question subtle changes in behavior that others might overlook. This is not overthinking. It is awareness becoming refined. But refinement without grounding can lead to misinterpretation if you are not careful. Archangel Michael steps forward with a warning that is not meant to unsettle you, but to strengthen you. What is coming toward you will not announce its true nature immediately. It will arrive with ambiguity. It will carry familiarity. It may even mirror something from your past in a way that feels emotionally recognizable. And this is where discernment becomes critical. Because familiarity is not the same as truth, and recognition is not the same as alignment. You may feel an emotional response when this person finally makes their move. A sense of memory resurfacing. A feeling of I know this energy. But Archangel Michael asks you to pause in that moment. Not to react. Not to assume. Not to assign meaning too quickly. Because what is familiar is not always what is healthy, and what feels new is not always what is right for your present season. This is the test. Can you see clearly without being pulled into emotional memory? Because memory is powerful. It can soften your perception. It can blur your boundaries. It can make you associate past emotional intensity with present meaning. And if you are not grounded, you may interpret movement as reconciliation, or curiosity as alignment, or attention as intention. But discernment requires separation between feeling and truth. Archangel Michael reveals that this upcoming interaction, whatever form it takes, will carry layers. Surface intention and deeper motivation will not immediately match. What is said may not fully reflect what is meant. What is shown may not fully reflect what is carried internally. And this is where your spiritual maturity is being activated. You are not being tested to see if you recognize the person. You are being tested to see if you recognize the energy. Because energy never lies, even when words try to. And you are now being sharpened to perceive beyond words. There is a deeper reason this test is arriving now. It is not to confuse you. It is not to trap you. It is to elevate your perception so that you no longer engage with your life from assumption, but from clarity, from grounded awareness, from a place where you no longer give access to confusion simply because it feels familiar. Archangel Michael is not asking you to shut down emotionally. He is asking you to remain spiritually awake while emotions are present. To feel without being led, to observe without being pulled, to recognize without immediately reacting. Because reaction is where discernment is often lost. You may feel a strong internal pull when this moment arrives. A desire to respond quickly, to interpret quickly, to assign meaning quickly. But that urgency is precisely what must be slowed down. Not ignored, but slow. Because clarity does not come from speed. It comes from stillness. And in stillness, truth becomes visible. You must also be aware that this test is not just about the other person. It is about you. About how far you have come. About how deeply you have grown beyond old emotional cycles. About whether you still respond from past versions of yourself or from the awareness you now carry. Archangel Michael shows that this moment will reveal your growth more than it reveals their intention. because your response will demonstrate whether you are still emotionally reactive or spiritually centered. And that is why this matters. Because what is approaching is not just an interaction. It is a reflection point. A moment where you will see how much you have changed, and whether you can stand in the change without being pulled backward. You are not being asked to reject what comes. You are being asked to perceive it correctly, to see it without distortion, to understand it without assumption, to remain rooted in truth even when emotion rises. This is the test of discernment, not whether you can identify who is in front of you, but whether you can identify what is behind their movement. And Archangel Michael assures you, you are being prepared for this moment. Not left unguarded, not left unaware, but refined, sharpened, strengthened in perception. Because when this moment arrives, your clarity will determine your peace. Type ISE with discernment in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 8888 is now activating spiritual clarity within you. In this moment of heightened discernment, understand that what is being released into your spirit is not just revelation, it is assignment. Every time you choose to support this mission, you are not simply giving. You are planting spiritual seeds into a field that heaven is actively watering for souls who are still lost in confusion. I speak this with divine urgency. Your support becomes a channel through which light breaks into dark places where people are still waiting for clarity. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And I declare that over you now as a living flow, not a distant promise. As you step into this act of obedience, heaven records it as alignment with purpose, not obligation. I urge you now, in this sacred moment, to respond, not to me, but to the spiritual call being placed upon your heart. The PayPal link in the description and the QR code on screen are open doors for you to participate in something eternal. Move now, and let your giving become a testimony of faith in motion. There is a battlefield that most people never see with their physical eyes, yet they experience its effects every single day. It is not fought with weapons, nor is it fought in open confrontation. It is fought within the emotional and mental space where thoughts are formed, where reactions are shaped, and where perception is either strengthened or distorted. And Archangel Michael reveals that this is the exact space where the next phase of your awareness must now be anchored. Because once discernment is activated, the emotional battlefield becomes the most important territory to guard. You are no longer unaware of the fact that something is forming around you. You are no longer disconnected from the sense that movement is approaching. You are no longer questioning whether someone has been thinking about you. You now understand that they have. But what happens next is where your stability is truly tested, because awareness alone does not protect you from emotional engagement. Your heart becomes the first point of contact. Your mind becomes the interpreter, and your spirit becomes the anchor, with a battlefield. Archangel Michael reveals that when someone has been thinking about you intensely, especially over time, it creates a subtle emotional echo. This echo does not demand your attention loudly. Instead, it appears as spontaneous thoughts, sudden memories, emotional shifts without clear cause, or moments of internal questioning that seem to arise from nowhere. But these are not random disruptions. They are the byproducts of energetic interaction between awareness and intention. And this is where many become vulnerable, because emotions respond faster than discernment. You may find yourself revisiting moments from the past that you had already mentally closed. You may feel curiosity rise unexpectedly, or emotional openness that does not match your current direction in life. This is not regression. It is activation of memory through external focus, being directed toward you. But Archangel Michael warns you not to confuse emotional activation with emotional instruction. Just because something is felt does not mean it must be followed. Just because something arises does not mean it must be engaged. This is the core of the emotional battlefield, learning to observe without being consumed. There is a difference between acknowledging emotion and surrendering to it. And in this moment, your strength is being measured by your ability to remain centered even when emotional waves are triggered externally. Because what is coming toward you, this unexpected move, this sudden shift in attention, will not only engage your mind, it will engage your emotional memory. It will attempt to reconnect you to versions of yourself that no longer represent who you are now. Archangel Michael shows that this is where confusion can enter if you are not grounded. Because emotional memory often carries comfort, even when it is not aligned with growth. It can feel familiar, even when it is not beneficial. And it can feel meaningful, even when it is simply unresolved energy attempting to resurface. This is why guarding your heart is not about shutting down emotion. It is about directing it. You are being asked to observe your emotional responses without letting them define your interpretation of events. If something arises within you, pause. Do not immediately assign meaning. Do not immediately assume connection or destiny or closure. Instead, allow observation to lead interpretation, not emotion. Archangel Michael emphasizes that clarity is not found in emotional intensity. It is found in emotional stability. And stability is now your responsibility. Because as this person moves closer to action, their presence, whether physical, verbal, or indirect, will activate emotional responses within you that may feel stronger than expected. Not because they are overwhelming you, but because the connection between memory and awareness is being stimulated. This is where discipline becomes essential. You must protect your mind from narrative distortion. You must protect your heart from premature attachment. You must protect your spirit from reactive interpretation. Because what is forming will not reveal its full meaning immediately. It will unfold gradually. And those who react too quickly often misread the entire situation. Archangel Michael warns that emotional reactions are not wrong, but they are not always accurate indicators of truth. You must allow space between feeling and response, between awareness and conclusion, between observation and interpretation. This space is where discernment matures. You are not being asked to suppress emotion. You are being asked to understand it without being led by it. Because emotional leadership in uncertain moments leads to confusion, while spiritual grounding leads to clarity. And in this moment, clarity is protection. The emotional battlefield will test whether you can remain steady when familiarity tries to pull you backward. It will test whether you can observe without attachment. It will test whether you can feel without being controlled by what you feel. Archangel Michael assures you that this is not a battle you are unprepared for. You have already been strengthened through awareness. You have already been guided into discernment. Now you are being refined in emotional mastery. Because what is approaching is not just about someone else's movement toward you. It is about your internal response to that movement. And that response will determine whether you remain aligned with your present or drift into emotional echoes of your past. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Stay anchored in who you are now. Because the emotional battlefield is not meant to defeat you. It is meant to reveal your stability. Type I remain emotionally steady in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now stabilizing your emotional awareness. There is a protection around you that does not depend on what you can see, feel, or fully understand in the moment. It exists beyond physical awareness, beyond emotional interpretation, and beyond the limitations of human perception. Archangel Michael reveals that while you have been sensing movement, shifts, and subtle emotional waves connected to someone thinking about you, there has also been something far greater operating alongside it. divine protection actively surrounding your life, your spirit, and your path forward. This protection is not passive. It is not distant. It is not symbolic. It is active, intelligent, and responsive. You may have thought that what you were experiencing was happening in isolation, that the thoughts directed toward you, the emotional shifts, the internal awareness were unfolding without guidance or containment. But that is not the full truth, because every movement toward you is being observed, measured, and regulated within a higher order that you are not always aware of in real time. Archangel Michael stands not as a distant figure watching events unfold, but as a force of divine order actively working within the unseen layers of your experience. And what he reveals now is crucial. Nothing that reaches you does so without passing through layers of spiritual alignment and protection. This means that even the thoughts directed toward you, even the emotional energy being projected, even the internal intentions forming on the other side of this connection are not moving unchecked. They are being filtered through a higher system of protection that ensures what reaches you does not exceed what you are able to handle, process, or discern. There have been moments when you felt overwhelmed by subtle emotional waves or unexpected shifts in your inner world. Moments when you questioned why certain thoughts appeared or why certain feelings arose without explanation. But Archangel Michael reveals that even those moments were regulated. Nothing entered your awareness without purpose. Nothing reached your spirit without permission from a higher level of divine oversight. This protection is not just about shielding. It is about timing, exposure, and limitation. You are being protected not only from harm, but from premature understanding. Because there are things you are not meant to fully see all at once. There are movements unfolding that, if revealed too early, would disrupt your emotional stability or cloud your discernment. So instead, they are revealed in layers, in fragments, in awareness that grows over time rather than all at once. This is why you have been sensing things before they fully manifest. It is not exposure without protection. It is exposure within protection. Archangel Michael shows that divine shielding works in two directions. It protects what comes toward you, and it also protects how you respond to what comes toward you. This means that even your reactions are being gently guided toward alignment when you remain open and aware. There have been moments where you felt an internal pause before reacting to something emotionally charged. A hesitation. A moment of reflection. That was not hesitation. It was protection. A subtle interruption designed to give you space to choose awareness over reaction. And this is where the deeper truth becomes visible. Protection is not always about blocking. It is often about slowing, refining, and guiding. You are not being isolated from what is happening around you. You are being positioned within it in a way that allows clarity to emerge without confusion overwhelming you. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this protection also extends to your emotional boundaries. When someone directs their thoughts, intentions, or unresolved emotions toward you, they do not gain unrestricted access to your inner world. Instead, there is a spiritual boundary that filters intensity, ensuring that what reaches you does not destabilize your center. This is why, even in moments of heightened awareness, you have not lost yourself. Even in moments of emotional sensitivity, you have not been consumed. Even in moments of uncertainty, something within you has remained anchored. That anchoring is not accidental. It is protection in motion. You may not always recognize it as such, but it is there. Archangel Michael also reveals that this protection extends beyond the present moment. It is not only responding to what is happening now, but also preparing for what is about to unfold. Because when movement transitions from thought into action, as previously revealed, you will need stability more than interpretation. You will need grounding more than reaction. You will need clarity more than emotional response. And that clarity is being preserved for you. This is why certain outcomes have not unfolded prematurely. This is why certain interactions have not escalated before their time. This is why certain emotional experiences have been softened rather than intensified. It is all part of a larger design of protection that ensures you remain centered even as awareness increases. Archangel Michael wants you to understand this deeply. You are not navigating this alone, and you are not exposed to forces without oversight. There is order within what feels like uncertainty. There is structure within what feels like emotional movement. There is protection within what feels like unfolding complexity. And as this connection continues to evolve, as thoughts begin to move closer toward action, you will be held within that protection in ways you may only fully understand in hindsight. For now, your role is not to control what unfolds, but to remain aware within it. To trust the stability beneath the surface. To recognize that even in unseen dynamics, you are not unguarded. You are being watched over in ways that are precise, intentional, and deeply aligned with your spiritual path. And nothing that is meant to harm your alignment will ever be allowed to override your protection. Type "I am divinely protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now sealing divine protection around your life. There is a moment in every unfolding destiny where awareness stops being passive and becomes participatory. You are no longer simply observing signs, sensing shifts, or noticing subtle emotional movements. You are now standing at a threshold where your internal response begins to influence how the external situation develops. Archangel Michael reveals that this is that exact moment for you. What you choose to do with what you now know matters more than you realize. Because awareness is only the beginning. Response is what determines direction. You have been brought through layers of understanding for a reason. First, you were shown that someone has been thinking about you more than you realized. Then you were guided into discernment, into recognizing that not all thoughts carry the same intention. Then you were shown timing, emotional dynamics, protection, and the unfolding of unseen movement. Each layer was not random, it was preparation. And now, all of it converges into one point: your response. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this is not about reacting impulsively. It is not about making assumptions or rushing to conclusions. It is about how you hold yourself internally when external movement begins to reveal itself. Because what is forming is not just about them. It is also about how you interpret what they do, what they say, and what they bring forward. This is where many lose clarity. Not in the absence of information, but in the presence of too much emotional interpretation layered over that information. And that is why your grounding has been so carefully guided up to this point. You are being positioned to respond from awareness rather than emotion, from discernment rather than impulse, from clarity rather than assumption. Archangel Michael reveals that when this person finally makes their move, whether through communication, presence, or indirect action, your internal state will determine the experience. Two people can receive the same interaction and walk away with entirely different understandings depending on their emotional stability and spiritual grounding. This is why your awareness has been refined step by step. You are not meant to be caught off guard. You are meant to be centered within the moment of revelation. Because revelation is not always comfortable. It does not always arrive in the form of clarity immediately. Sometimes it arrives as complexity first, requiring patience before understanding becomes fully visible. And this is where your discipline becomes essential. Archangel Michael warns that your greatest strength in this moment is not knowing every detail in advance, but maintaining internal stability when details begin to unfold. because what arrives may carry emotional weight. It may activate memory. It may stir curiosity or confusion. But none of those responses should determine your direction. Only clarity should. And clarity requires space. Space between stimulus and response. Space between emotion and interpretation. Space between awareness and conclusion. You are being trained to operate within that space. Archangel Michael also reveals that this turning point is not just about what comes toward you. It is about what you allow to remain within you. Because as new information, interactions, where shifts occur, you will be required to filter them through your current level of awareness. Not through past versions of yourself. Not through emotional reflex, but through grounded understanding. This is the difference between being influenced and being informed. Between reacting and responding. Between being pulled into old cycles and standing in new awareness. The turning point is not dramatic in appearance. It is internal. It is the moment you decide, consciously or subconsciously, how you will engage with what unfolds next. And that decision shapes your experience far more than the event itself. Archangel Michael emphasizes that you are not being tested for perfection. You are being refined in perception. You are learning how to see without distortion, how to feel without losing balance, how to understand without overextending interpretation. And this refinement is what prepares you for what comes next. Because once movement becomes visible, once intention becomes clearer, once action begins to replace thought, your role is not to overanalyze. It is to remain steady within truth. This is the turning point, where awareness becomes responsibility, where knowledge becomes alignment, where perception becomes wisdom. And your response in this space will determine how smoothly you move through what follows. Not because you are controlling the situation, but because you are controlling your internal state within it. Archangel Michael assures you that you are ready for this moment, not because you know everything, but because you have been guided into awareness step by step, layer by layer, until your perception is strong enough to remain stable even as things begin to shift externally. Now, what happens next will not require panic. It will require presence, and your presence, anchored in clarity, will define the outcome far more than anything else. Type "I respond" with clarity in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activating aligned decision-making within you. Now you arrive at the final unfolding of this message, the point where all previous layers converge into one clear understanding. Archangel Michael steps forward not to add more complexity, but to bring completion. What you have received up to this moment was never meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to awaken you. And now, what remains is clarity. Everything you have been shown points to one essential truth. Your life is in a phase of spiritual transition where unseen awareness is becoming visible reality. The thoughts directed toward you, the emotional energy you have felt, the subtle shifts in your intuition, the sense of timing, the anticipation of movement. All of it has been leading you to this realization. Something is forming, yes, but more importantly, you are being prepared to meet it from a higher version of yourself. Archangel Michael reveals that this is not about fear of what is coming, nor is it about attachment to who is thinking about you. This is about elevation. Because not every thought that reaches you is meant to draw you backward. Some thoughts are simply indicators that a chapter is transitioning. Some movements are not invitations to return. They are confirmations that something has completed its cycle. And this is where your spiritual maturity is being solidified. You are being guided into a state where you no longer interpret life through emotional reaction alone. Instead, you are learning to perceive through awareness, discern through stillness, and respond through alignment. This is not a small shift. is a foundational transformation in how you engage with your reality. Archangel Michael emphasizes that what is ahead of you will not require confusion. It will require presence. The unexpected move, the sudden communication, the shift you sense forming, all of it will eventually reveal itself in physical form. But by the time it does, you will no longer be the same version of yourself that once would have reacted blindly. You will have clarity. You will have grounding. You will have perspective. And that is your protection. Because clarity prevents distortion. Grounding prevents emotional instability. Perspective prevents misinterpretation. This final revelation is not about predicting every detail of what will happen next. It is about ensuring that when it happens, you are not shaken by it. You are not pulled into confusion. You are not thrown back into old emotional cycles. Instead, you remain centered, observing, understanding, and choosing your response from a place of awareness rather than uncertainty. Archangel Michael reveals that your future path is not defined by the actions of others, but by the stability of your inner state as those actions unfold. You are being prepared to walk forward without losing yourself in external movement. That is the true transformation taking place within you right now. You may still feel moments of anticipation, moments of curiosity, moments of emotional reflection, but none of these are meant to destabilize you. They are simply part of the transition from awareness to embodiment, from understanding externally to stability internally. And now, the message becomes simple. You are ready, not because everything is revealed, but because everything you need to remain steady has already been placed within you. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing coming toward you is beyond your ability to discern when you remain grounded. Nothing unfolding is meant to disrupt your peace when you remain centered in awareness. And nothing forming in the unseen is stronger than the clarity you now carry. The final truth is this: what is meant for you will not confuse you when you are aligned. What is not for you will not stay when you are clear. And what is unfolding around you will ultimately serve your higher path, even if it arrives in unexpected form. So now, you move forward not with fear, not with assumption, but with awareness that has been refined through every layer of this message. Stay present, stay discerning, stay aligned. Because your future is not waiting to surprise you, it is waiting for you to meet it with clarity. Type "I am aligned with my path" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 777,777 is now sealing your spiritual journey with divine clarity and protection. As this divine message comes to completion, understand that what you have received is not just information. It is spiritual alignment being awakened within you. When you choose to support this mission, you are not simply contributing. You are helping expand a channel of light that reaches those still searching for clarity in their confusion. I declare this over you now. Your act of giving becomes a seed that heaven multiplies into peace, direction, and breakthrough in your own life. The word says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive," and in this moment, that blessing becomes active and alive for you. I personally invite you, with sincerity and spiritual purpose, to step into this flow of giving as an act of alignment, not obligation. The PayPal link in the description and the QR code on screen are open doors for you to participate in this divine mission. Do not delay what your spirit is already prompting you to do. Step forward now and let your support become part of something eternally meaningful.